Do you feel that there's a bit of hypocrisy in the fans and maybe even some of the media, how we cover the fight, we plop the money down to watch it, we know that there's a possibility these two guys could get in there and somebody can die, and that Deontay says something mean, and people get kind of upset, they get bent out of shape?
Well, no, I don't think that's a good example of the hypocrisy. I do believe that you're right, that there is some hypocrisy that exists in all of us.
Right.
But I don't think that that's the right example, because the reality of the situation is that none of us can sit up here and condone a fighter saying, I want to leave a body in the ring. I want you to die. Paraphrasing, of course. You can't. None of us can condone that, because that's a level of lawlessness. Now, he didn't say he would do anything lawless, but we also know that as human beings, particularly as a spiritual human being like himself, you know he doesn't really mean that. I don't believe Deontay Wilder meant that for 1 second, but you still can't say it. And then we've got to transfer to the day and times that we're living in. Let's face reality. It's a different age. Things that were once accepted before, there's no way in hell they're accepted now. We all know it. We all know why. Let's not act like we don't know. And as a result, because those times have changed, you've got to change and adapt to it, because the times that we're living in, we're seeing lives that are more and more affected by other people's words. So now we have to be more conscious than ever of the words that we spew. I know doing First Take every weekday morning, there are times that I want to say things a hell of a lot more incendiary and abrasive, because that's how I really, really feel.
So that's you holding back.
But that's me holding back, because I'm on the national airwaves and kids could be watching. And I gotta be mindful of how they're going to receive my words. I gotta be mindful of how some adults who might be a little sick and psycho might receive my words. I can't provide any kind of incentive for people to go out there and act lawlessly and irresponsibly, willing to do harm to other human beings. These are the kind of things we have to pay attention to, and it ain't our fault. The civil and the sane amongst us, we know better. We know what lines not to cross. The problem is that there are others who don't seem to know that, and we're responsible for them too when we have a public forum to disseminate a message to millions upon millions of people. It just comes with it.
Did you see the famous Till This Day interview between Wilder and one of our reporters? And what was your takeaway?
Who's your reporter? I'm sorry.
I
saw a clip. I saw a clip of it. I didn't watch the whole thing, and I actually spoke to Radio Raheem about it. Actually. So, what's your question?
I just wondered your perspective on what Deontay Wilder was saying and how he backs, I guess, our culture and how we're fighting. I guess till this day, we're fighting for things that we
listen. If you are a black man experiencing the things that we experience in our country, you know that there's truth to what he was saying. The reality of it, though, is that everybody experiences their own troubles. For example, racism exists, we all know that. But that don't mean every single situation is racist. You have racists out there. That doesn't mean every person that's not a minority is racist. You gotta be able, people, in my opinion, have to be incredibly careful of stereotyping and stigmatizing. Because one of the biggest things that black folks in America complain about is being stereotyped and stigmatized. You don't want the actions of a few to taint the many. If somebody is late all the damn time, or somebody's violent all the time, or they're belligerent all the time, you want people to say, that's them, meaning that person, that ain't me. You don't want the actions of a few to taint the many. Well, if that's your mentality, then you owe it to people of other races to do the same courtesy thing for them. So you have to do that. And so, when folks generalize and they make statements, of course racism exists. Of course we have that problem in America. Of course that problem still exists. Of course the times that we live in have a heightened level of sensitivity attached to it. All of those things are true. But in the end, we still have an obligation to take it on a case-by-case basis. Because if we just go about the business of painting everybody with a broad brush just because they look differently than us, or they do something, the slightest thing that reminds us of something that makes us uncomfortable, and we're willing to use that as an excuse to stigmatize and stereotype, we got to pause for a second and ask, are you going to be okay when they do it to us? And so that's my whole point. That's something I got to be mindful of. I don't remember the details of the Radio Raheem interview. I do remember talking to him, and how sensitive he was to it, and he was very, very concerned about how he's going to be perceived. I said, excuse me, you're reporting on the sport of boxing. Why do you care? You asked him a question, he reacted and responded to you in the way that he did, but you can't get caught up in that. That's the equivalent of an NBA reporter getting upset because a coach or a player comes at us about something we said. Well, duh, I expect them to come at us because they're not going to like everything we say. And you can, if you are the story, you are the story, but your goal should never be to beat the story.
And then don't you think it's unnecessary for the marketing portion of this that, you know, the way Deontay has brought in so many fans, that the way he's bringing in the fans love it? Do you think the marketing is unnecessary in that aspect to keep the hype going, to bring in more fans to boxing and to his brand?
Let's be clear. That's two different issues because you don't have to go as far as he did to bring in the fans. When you're 40-0-1 with 39 KOs, trust me, you're going to have fans. You don't have to worry about that. And you're going to have critics who think that, who want to see you fall. That comes with the territory. We don't need anybody to be ultra excessive with their verbiage or anything like that. Like I said, it wasn't a big deal to me what Deontay Wilder said because I never believed he meant it. I see this guy a lot. I know how spiritual he is. I know what a good person he is outside of the ring. So I wasn't concerned about what he meant. He wasn't talking about breaking any rules or going in the ring and cheating or doing something along those lines. He was talking about within the rules. I'm just saying, as you grow and you become more of a brand and more of a big name representing the sport of boxing, it might behoove you to be mindful of how your message is received because you're going to start touching people who don't even follow boxing. They're just following you because you're great at what you do and you're a pretty good person. And so when that's your reality and you're willing to embrace it, this is what comes with it, and you have to accept that.
Stephen, do you think that Floyd at this point, in Floyd's mind, Pacquiao's the favorite to beat Keith Thurman?
In Floyd's mind?
Yeah, in Floyd's mind. Do you think that Floyd thinks that Pacquiao?
I have no idea what Floyd thinks. I haven't spoken to Floyd about any of these fighters. I don't know. And to be quite honest with you, I wouldn't even know what to think about that fight because I don't know what Keith Thurman is going to show up. I mean, I didn't see the man for 2 years until his last fight.
The same Keith that showed up against Josecito Lopez shows up against Pacquiao.
I still don't know the answer to that question because I don't know which Pacquiao's going to show up either. I don't know.
Touché.